Okay, so the question is, does living at home with your parents limit your personal growth?
I think the thing with coming back home and then actually having to live with your parents is you spend a long period of time staying by yourself. So you
Right.
already know, you already have your own procedure how you do your things. You already have your own ways of doing things. It could be as simple as I have meals at a certain time of the day, at the night when I come back home. Or it could be as simple as when I want to go somewhere, I'm not going to tell anybody. I decide like, yeah, I'm just going to go, whatever. But just being at home and having to respect that that's someone else's household, and it's not the full pressure of being by yourself. And I think that kind of pressure then leads you to then work hard to in your career, because if you want to achieve your goals, if you
gotta eat.
yeah, you gotta yeah, I think people complain all the time. People are like, oh, yeah, I don't like being at home. I wish I was earning more so I could like have my own place, have my own area to do what I want to do and explore the kind of things I want to explore. But at the end of the day, is how long are you going to complain for?
Yeah.
More like what Ryan was talking about. Now you're in someone else's household. You're coming from where you've lived alone. You're in someone else's household. Now you have to respect certain rules. And your parents too are still viewing you as their child. So they might give you a few more liberties, but in their mind you're still O level, A level in their minds, So you're also asking a lot for them to give you more and more liberties where they can see, and they're still their baby. So it will sort of limit even their view of you.
Yeah.
They won't look at you as an adult fully.
Sorry.
Go on.
I don't think we can trivialize how harsh the economic climate is, though. Because in all fairness, if you go back to, let's say, 300 being your average salary for someone, even if they do save up, they're likely to move into an apartment they're renting. How am I going to pay rent monthly when my monthly income isn't changing? Do you know what I mean? So if I'm getting 300 and rent is going to range from, I don't know, 500 going up, you still need to furnish said apartment. You need to pay electricity, you need to pay for water. So I think in as much as, we can say people need to grow up, and I still think the economic climate isn't allowing us to do what our parents did at our age.
See, you know what? With that point, sorry. With that point, right? Like you guys have both raised that, but I think that maybe I'm being a little bit biased, but there's an element of our expectations are not realistic.
Yeah.
Yes, you're saying 300. I know a lot of people that are earning that or even less, and they're staying elsewhere. They're boy sky kwaningi, and they're making their little plans. They're saving up. I think it's now an expectations thing, and maybe that's another conversation that maybe we might need to explore there. But it's like, what's stopping you from starting with that bare minimum? I don't think people are pushing enough. You're trying to get to fancy apartment, to Mount Pleasant. No. You're not earning that much, so why not start where you can actually afford, even if it's what you had dreamt of? And I feel like a lot of people aren't doing that, and they stay using the excuse of, oh well, I don't earn enough, it's not sustainable. Do what you can with that now. Where are the people that are thinking like that?
Just like the renting climate in Zim is it's not like it is overseas, where you can go and you can find an apartment in your price range that's fully furnished. Like when you think of moving out, you've got to also think about buying furniture, buying bedding, curtains, cutlery, crockery, all that stuff. You have to take a lot into consideration. You can't just be like, pack up, pay my deposit, gone, bye mom, see you later.
And how am I moving around?
How are you moving your stuff? And that stuff is expensive in some. I don't know. I've looked
True. I mean, I agree with both points. What Brian is saying, and as well as what you're saying, it involves those costs of furniture and things. But when you're staying at home, your parents are that cushion that's assisting you. So for sure, if you're gonna come and say, "Mom, please, can I take the bed?" I don't think she'd say no. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, when I moved out, I was like, "Mom, can I get this duvet I had?" And and some of the stuff, then they just said, "Okay, we're helping you out." That's the assistance, and that's to cater for the economic climate we're talking about.
I feel like even just having to learn to pay your bills, learning to manage your time because you need to cook, and then even if you decide you're going to do takeout, but that's you managing when you're going to do what. I think for me, anyways, having lived away for 8 years.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be the person I am today had I not had that time away from home. And I think that speaks to how much living alone can help your personal growth.
the place I stay by myself. Yo, talking about what you said, the amount of money that you make, you can afford to get a place that's furnished, and you can provide for yourself. But coming back, let's say you earn 300. I'm actually looking for a place to move out into. I was supposed to move with a friend, but skirt. So now it's like by myself. I'll be honest. It's a matter of pride. I'm having to look at myself and say, all right, Titch, how about we lower your expectations? Like what you said, you can't expect to move from Imbaya Baba, Quimbaya Baba, because he built it from the bottom.
We all want to move out. We love our personal space. I mean, if I could move out, that would be great. Because personally, I'm still staying at home. And the idea I have of my first place, I want all these things. But then when you hear of where your parents started, they didn't have couches, they didn't have a TV. But then you know how we've become so used to those things. Cushion once again. We become used to those things. So you think, okay, fine. So I'm going to have this house, like, people come to my place, where they're going to sit, where they're going to sit, like, we
That's
usually,
a real thing.
we usually bring people to the house,
Let's be artistic, guys. We're gonna like
Let's be artistic.
Like the space.
let's watch this, let's do this, and we do all these things. I mean, it's comfortable. And then you're going to get to a place, and now, we have, like, chairs, kitchen chairs, and you're like, fine, sit. Don't go get up on my chairs, we're going to sit on the chairs, and for us, that's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. So I definitely think that living at home hinders your growth, also because you get used to a certain comfort, possibly one that you haven't worked for.
That's such a
pressure. Like if you're in a relationship with someone, you're living here, and you're like we live with my parents, and we have our own space, but it's like me and Jack. But we
Jack?
Tell us who Jack is.
Me and my boyfriend Jack live with my parents, but we're like separate to like the main house, but it's like it's still my parents' house, right?
Yeah.
And we want to move out, but then it's like we move out, and then people are like, oh, but you guys are living together, and like you said, you don't even have like a sofa in your house. Like there's kind of that pressure, like we need to look like we're adults or look like we've got our shit together when we don't. We're far from it. Just
Yeah, but again, sorry, I keep being the downer here. It's an excuse, Santi. It's an excuse, and I think people need to stop feeding themselves those excuses. Do something about it. Do you know what I mean? Start this with the small things. Start with your one bed,
but
and
you have to build up. That's
how. To what extent? How many years are you going to be working, earning your $300? 2 years later.
Like I said,
and you're still saying I haven't
furniture, stuff like that. You have to build up to moving out here. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going now. You've got to like sort of get everything together.
Well,
I mean, like basic.
Kanye, just let me go. Okay, so you're staying with your parents. Are you staying with your parents? Do you have any aspirations to move out? Yes or no?
Right. So
no, yes or no?
No.
Why
I don't. Because I'm saving.
Okay.
Staying at home for me is practical.
Okay.
And also I think for me there's a massive cultural anchor on me. So as much as I could even try to think about planning, my parents are very conservative. So to me, the fact that I'll be in Zimbabwe single and wanting to go live by myself, it doesn't fly very well with them. For some reason, they don't apply that to being overseas. It's a very weird cultural thing. But to them, it'll be a problem for me to be on my own here. As a single
especially
so
female.
you're saying,
especially for the daughters.
Okay, so you're saying what's stopping
so
you from moving
those two
is
reasons for me.
you're
That
saving and your parents. Okay.
In Zimbabwe, we're fine living at home, and the idea of moving out and not being as comfortable as we are at home is very scary. But if you were to move to another country and you were told, okay, fine, you're moving to another country, you would sleep on that mattress. You would have nothing in that apartment, and you would be okay with it.
Noodles and beans on toast.
So what is it about being in Zimbabwe that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't be on a mattress? Is
You have a safety net. You have that safety net in your family.
We care what people think.
we care what people think.
I think it's privilege because since you've already grown up in that kind of environment, right? When you go to another country, when you go to another place where you don't have that cushion or privilege to say, oh no, I'm not going to stay here. No, I have. It's not in my plan. Whereas compared to coming back here, I think you need to acknowledge your privilege because I work with a lot of people who don't have that privilege.
Yeah.
Don't have the privilege to say I'm going to send my parents, because a lot of the parents won't be able to afford the rent for one. They're not able to afford other things. They have to contribute a lot to the household. So I think a lot of the thing is, for us, it's privilege. We have a lot of privilege that we don't necessarily acknowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
and
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Something
Very
that I think when you get out into the real world, I think when we were younger, it was much easier not to be part of that. But right now, when you're much older and you're working and you consistently have to be in spaces with other people, then you realize, okay, what am I actually saying? You know, like, what am I saying when I'm saying no? I wouldn't stay at that place.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
You know-
because like no,
Yeah.
because
When I moved out first, I had to swallow my pride. I was
Right.
and I thought it was okay. Like, I liked it, but I knew it wasn't my dream compared to, because I worked outside of the country for a while abroad, and I lived in a beautiful, beautiful place, And to move into the place I moved into here, I mean, I had water woes. I didn't have a shower, like it was, like bathtub, and it was that kind of, I had to like humble myself and be like, man, but this is it. Like, I had said to myself, I'm gonna be out there, and I'm big. I'm huge. I'm big on showers. That's my thing. Like, that's like, I am not a bathtub guy, but
Wow.
and so, like I'm saying, the comparison, if you had asked the people who I lived with abroad, who saw the place I had, it was a huge change, but I was there, and to where I live now, which is much better. So it's a progressive thing where you go stage by stage. You're like, okay, I'm going to start here. Even if we don't have furniture, we're going to buy this, we're going to buy that, we're going to buy this. And then from there, I'm going to move to a nicer apartment. And from there, I'm going to put a mortgage down. Because those are the thoughts that so it starts to hit your mind about putting a mortgage down, because you're like, no, I'm just putting rent into someone else's pocket. I'm paying someone else's mortgage. So that's the reality for me now. I'm thinking, let me actually try and get a mortgage.
Yeah.
And I think that our privilege sort of then plays a regressive kind of role in our lives, in that we're like, chilled. I don't have to worry about this and that. I've got this comfort. Let me save. And it just doesn't get your mind to that kind of position from people I've spoken to. Something Wise said, I don't know if it is what you said, actually, about the privilege. And then you've got people who don't have privilege, who have to stay at home to actually support the family. I've had the pleasure of interacting with people like that, who can't move out of their mom's house because they're actually buying the groceries at the house.
Right.
And they know that, going and paying rent elsewhere is actually taking income away from the home. And I think that's actually the reality of a lot of other people in our generation, that we could maybe say south of Samora or otherwise, who are in
But
that.
even within our own privileged group, that's part of the reason why I also can't move out, because I have to contribute to my household. My dad is well, those of you know, my dad is not well. So my mom needs not just financial support, but also the picking up and dropping off, and someone to cook dinner once in a while, and that kind of stuff. It's a support system.
But at some point, do you ever sit and think that, am I stopping my parents' growth by staying at home? Do you ever just think that? Sometimes they look at you like, $500. $500. Do you know what I could have done with that?
That is so true. I feel like I've been taking you to school, and now I'm still feeding your ass.
That's exactly it.
That is
Nice.
My chicha.
I want to ask you guys, when you're saying, you were talking earlier about women and moving out and how that's culturally a problem. How do you navigate that space? And is it something you just say that's how it is, so I'll leave that as it is? Or do you have different experience with that?
It's definitely a thing.
It's a thing.
No, it's a full-on thing. But I think, like I was saying earlier, I think it'll vary across families. I can only speak about my dad is a very conservative man, very traditional. And I think the first time I brought it up, it was like, I actually have to take time to think about this. He didn't want to talk about it. It was something he wasn't ready to have a conversation about. And I think he got warmer toward it, but that first reaction told me, right, this is actually an issue. So, I mean, we've tried to carry on talking about it, and he's become more open to it. But again, I then think about, okay, but then the money, then do I get the card? Like, we haven't even spoken to like
Yeah,
details.
do I go with the
Do I
card?
go with the card? Do I not? So do I need to save for a car first?
You're grown now, though.
So,
You got your car?
And I understand you have a different situation, but like I could never bring my boyfriend to this house and just be like, Mama, ka, chila. It'll need to be after years of
Yes.
conditioning,
getting
conditioning
them
them to
used
the
to it.
idea. Then maybe he'll get a young
Just
dinner
feel like a
invite.
late conversation sometimes.
Yeah, just be like, oh yeah, by the way.
What'd you say? That's it. It's on. It's on.
Then 2 years
Yes.
later, John.
To have also connections and stuff in Zim,
Yeah.
like, because it's not
That's
as simple
true.
as this
Yeah.
is your lease, sign and go. It's like, okay, this is your lease, but then like you've got to get a lawyer to read over it because landlords in Zim are shady. Then
Yeah.
you're like, so
That's
it's like
insane.
a lot more complicated than just like I
Yeah.
said, it's not just like, okay, deposit down, bye mom. Like you kind of got to figure out being an adult in Zim. And
Round it up. All right. So back to our question. We're just gonna go around and get the final remark and an answer to the question. Does living at home with your parents limit your personal growth?
Actually, like before we had this conversation, I don't think I thought of being at home the same way I'm thinking of it now.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
all the points that you all brought up were quite interesting to me. So I think it depends. Firstly, just on a gender basis, it depends on that.
Depends on your circumstance. I think it varies. It's not like it's the same with everyone.
Yeah.
So depending on circumstance.
I agree with both of them. It's definitely circumstantial. Depends on where you are in life too, I guess.
Yeah.
And your obligations and what exactly is stopping you. I mean, we've discussed there's the positive and there's the negative, or this. So it's all kind of mixed. But I would say, I think I'm leaning more towards it does sort of stop you from personal growth. I think it does. I'm gonna say I think it does.
I'll say I think it does. I think it does, even though there's so many things so many valuable lessons you learn from being at home. Also, you don't become Mumbe Mashanga. You become a cultured person, whatever that is. But I think also our economic situation is so tricky. It's flipped everything upside down, and things are not the way they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I will say yes, it does hinder personal growth, although at the same time, it is valuable. There is value in staying at home.
I'll say definitely yes, as well. But I think new perspectives that I do have after this conversation is we have a lot of pride as a generation. I think to Vusa's point that you need to start humble, and I think most of us are still very much in a place where we care what people think. So I think you think about what will people think when they see my spot, as opposed to this is where I need to start because it's what I can afford.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely different circumstances will, hinder people from being able to move out. But yeah. End of the day, yes, it's a hindrance.